I have to share y'all of this. This is hilarious. We have A.J. Brown getting asked if he's the same player as last season. His response, I guess Saquon ain't the same player either. Buddy, what is the Eagles' record? How much do you care about your own stats? Like, it is insane. Let's go through and can I pull this up? And I know obviously y'all don't care about this. Obviously this is a fantasy football show, and I just think it's funny. And yes, the Eagles offense hasn't looked as good as it did last season. But can we get a baseline check-in with the Philadelphia Eagles? The Eagles this season are currently sitting at 8-2. Let's go ahead and let's look at where the Eagles finished last year. The Eagles finished last year. This is the postseason. So let's say after the bye week, last year, they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 wins last year to 1 loss in their last 17 games. You combine that with an 8-2 record this year. The Eagles are 25-3 in their last 28 games. 25-3. That's one of the best performances from any team in the NFL in league history. 25-3 over your last 8 games. And you are still crying because you're not producing to what you expected. Absolutely insane in my mind. Like, Devonta Smith is having a better year than ever. Dallas Goedert's having a better year than ever. McCole Hardman on the IR is going to miss 4 games. Obviously, you weren't rostering McCole Hardman. Justice Hill gets in a full practice. He'll be good to go. Isaiah Likely gets in a limited practice. Who cares? Rashad Bateman doesn't practice. Who cares? Brian Thomas, Britton Strange, and Byshell Tuden all get in limited practices on Thursday. They all practice on Wednesday as well. So my expectations as of right now, 5 p.m. Thursday, is I bet you we have all 3 of these Jacksonville Jaguars options playing. Trey Benson gets in a limited practice. Hopefully we see a full practice from Benson tomorrow and he actually comes back and plays and helps some of my best ball teams. Ramondre gets in a limited practice again. There's a real shot he plays and that hurts Henderson. Alec Eomanor doesn't practice. I'm assuming that he is going to miss. Josh Jacobs gets in a limited practice on Thursday. Jackson Dart gets in a limited practice. Damian Pierce gets cut. Jalen Warren gets in a limited practice. Aaron Rodgers gets in a limited practice. Josh Jacobs said worst case scenario is he misses 1 game and returns for Thanksgiving. He is still trying to play in week 12. Jacobs, I love you, buddy, but as somebody who is 9-2, and a big reason is because you produced pretty well this season, please just take the week off and be fully healthy. Don't let this turn into something bigger. Let's see what else we have. Sean Tucker's workload will continue to increase. There are rumors that we have that Bucky Irving's already been ruled out. Was said on a radio show in Tampa. It wasn't an official report, so I'm not going to say that it's for sure true, but it is interesting to note, and it's going to be interesting to make sure we continue to monitor. Joe Mixon not going to come back this season, and then Joe Mixon quote tweeted Rappaport saying like, hey, this is news to me. So God knows if Mixon is actually coming back or not, but I wouldn't rely on him if you had him. Let's see what else we have. And I think that's about it for the updates. But Joe Burrow, back-to-back full practices on Wednesday and Thursday. A big thing that I want to see to get an idea of if Burrow's going to be playing or not is actually going to be the sportsbook line movement that you have. So let me go ahead and pull up what we have real quick with our rankings this week, quarterback-wise. Give me 1 second. I'll show you all our quarterback rankings this week. I believe before it was even on the radar that Burrow was going to play, you actually had the Patriots favored by about 6.5 points. That line has moved down to where it looks like you actually have New England only favored by 5.5 now against the Cincinnati Bengals. So maybe there's a shot that you actually do get Joe Burrow back this week. My expectations are that Burrow's not going to be playing this week, but that Burrow will be back probably next. But, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's dive into these teams. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us as always. Now, here, Dallas Walker says, hey, Mason, thanks for the review. I traded Rice for Debo after a week 3 loss and May and Diggs for Bucky. Some brutal moves. Chase just got suspended. Trade deadline is Saturday night. Should I go for a trade before Saturday to ensure I make the playoffs and I can contend with the 2 other juggernauts if I make the playoffs with that one? Here's the thing. Did you submit the right team? You're 8-3. What the hell are you talking about? You have the number 1 team in this league. What are we doing here? You have an elite quarterback with Lamar. You have the number 1 tight end and the number 2 tight end in fantasy with McBride and Bowers. I'm actually going to assume that this team isn't as good as it's indicating because, and Noah Thomas says Rapport just reported on Burrow most likely playing on Sunday. Oh, you're getting me worked up here. Let me see it if I can find that from Ian Rappaport. But I'm assuming this league that we're looking at here, you don't have to start a tight end because Jake Ferguson's on the waiver wire. And yeah, looking at a lot of these teams, they don't have a tight end. So I guess having, Ian Rappaport came through and just said that Joe Burrow is looking to play on Sunday if the doctors clear him. Super exciting news. T. Higgins must start name, of course. Here's the thing. Like, obviously, this offense was already producing a ton with Flacco. But if you get Burrow back in, like, I think the ceiling is maybe about the same with these pass catchers. We already saw some of these massive blow-up performances from these guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins with Joe Flacco under center. In my mind, the biggest change is the floor. I think the floor is going to be significantly raised. Okay. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's get back to this. So we have the elite quarterback, we have the elite tight ends, but the elite tight ends aren't going to matter as much because we're not looking to get the positional advantage. Instead, you are more so just going to be, I'm looking to throw these guys in a flex, right? Now, going over to running back, we have Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, and Woody Marks. So yeah, it sucks not having Bucky Irving right now, and maybe Bucky misses another week or two. But you have Woody Marks that you can play here in the short term. And I'd say this week, honestly, I don't know. If you're going to get clarity on Bucky Irving before the Texans game tonight. So if you don't have a backup option that you can look at, which you have some interesting names out there on the waiver wire, I would probably just plan on playing Jonathan Taylor and Woody Marks and playing it safe. Going over to receiver, you have Jamar, Debo, Godwin, Worthy, as well as Darnell Mooney. So you're starting Debo Samuel like Xavier Worthy this week, and then Trey McBride in the flex. If you had 2 flexes, obviously you can throw in Brock Bowers as well. Looking at the waiver wire here, Keenan Allen's out there on the waiver wire. So unless you're planning on starting Darnell Mooney this week, we are already told that it does sound like Drake London's actually only going to be missing 1 week and probably coming back in week 13, or at least that's what London said. So I would go ahead. I would pretty easily cut Darnell Mooney. And honestly, even if you needed a wide receiver to start and like you were planning on starting Mooney, I would still probably cut him and pick up Jacoby Myers. But if you weren't planning on starting Darnell Mooney, I would go ahead. I would cut him. And opt to pick up Keenan Allen. But regardless, I would cut Darnell Mooney here. Okay. Then looking at potential trades. Oh, Debo's on bye. I apologize. So yeah, I mean, I guess you are planning on starting Mooney in that instance. So I would probably cut Darnell Mooney and instead for Keenan, who's also on bye. In that case, look at Jacoby Myers. But regardless, I'm not super excited about you playing Mooney this week or Mooney's long-term outlook. And then looking at trades with this team, if the league analyzer is correct, where you are sitting at 8-3, why would we be worried about Jamar Chase's 1-game suspension? Why would we be worried about Bucky Irving possibly missing this week or next week? Even if you lose and you fall to 8-4, you're still going to be A-okay. Like Avery in the Flock League, he has Jamar Chase seriously on the trade block, and he's going out there and trying to sell Jamar because he's 5-6. And him missing Jamar, Hampton, Laporta, Terry McLaurin, all these names, pretty big deal. But if you're 8-3, you could just roll through with literally no problem whatsoever. So I hate to say this, but this team, if it's 8-3, you don't do anything. You're going to be A-okay. You're going to eventually get Bucky back before the playoffs. You're going to get Jamar back next week. You'll get Debo back next week. You'll get Godwin back before the playoffs. And an 8-3 team, we should be thinking for the playoffs. Yeah, even if worst case scenario, maybe it's a 10-team league where only 4 teams make the playoffs. And this team's 7-4, this team's 7-4, this team's 8-3. So maybe you're a little bit worried about falling out for that reason. Worst case scenario, you lose this week, which isn't a guarantee. You're 8-4 and you have the points tiebreak over these other teams, and you're getting back like Jamar next week and possibly Bucky this week or next week. We don't know. So I'm sorry. Do not make a trade. Do not panic. You're A-okay. The only thing I would do is I'd probably cut Darnell Mooney for Jacoby Myers. And then obviously if Bowers is on your bench and you're not able to start Bowers, I would go ahead and see if we could flip him and Godwin for a better wide receiver. Now I'm going to assume you're not going to get a ton in that kind of deal, of course, because at the end of the day, this league, you don't need to start a tight end. But I'd still try to go for that. But I really appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. But in reality, I think you have the number 1 team in your league and you're going to be okay. Now let's move this over to Josh Allen. Says, hey Mason, just want to say thank you for helping me get as far as I've gotten in my league. I'm sitting in 3rd place with the 3rd most points scored. This will probably be my last team review. What would you suggest I do to make the team better, trades, etc.? The trade deadline is on the 22nd. Okay, so we are currently 4th in the power rankings on the site. But again, we are currently 3rd in the league standings. It is a 10-team start 8 format. Looking at trades, it is possible to get a trade done in your league. You were able to get one done 29 days ago. We traded away Jordan Addison, Devonta Smith, DeAndre Swift for James Cook effectively. So we sold a bunch of our depth already, right? And this is a 10-team start 8 format, so the depth does somewhat matter. Now, moving this back over, we are currently sitting with Josh Allen at quarterback. I have Allen on my own team, not complaining. A-okay, love to see it. Looking at what we have with the running back position, we are sitting with Devon Achane, Quinshon Judkins, James Cook, Trey Benson. So getting Benson back, honestly, just builds out a ton of depth with this team, because going over to wide receiver, we are not super interested in the idea of starting Jawan Jennings, Chris Godwin, Matthew Golden, right? So I love this team too. Like, this is going to be another super boring review. Because we have 3 running backs that are automatic starts, Jefferson and Ladd. Well, of course, they're not as good as they were drafted to be. There's still wide receivers you put in your starting lineup without really thinking about it. You have the elite quarterback. You have an extremely solid tight ends. It's not like we have too much depth here. I would say, looking at the waiver wire, I would ask yourself, and the same thing, I have Tony Pollard on my team, and it's a question I need to ask myself. Would you ever start Tony Pollard? And if you were going to, like, what would have to happen for you to start Pollard? Because the answer for my team is, if I was ever going to start Tony Pollard, I would need Tajay Spears injured. Like, I would need no Spears in this backfield where Pollard goes back to seeing 90% of the opportunities. But outside of that happening, I'm never putting him in my lineup. So if we look at the waiver wire and you see somebody like Blake Corum out there, Blake Corum, you can kind of say the same thing about. The only difference I would say is probably the ceiling is higher with Blake Corum. Like, you're never starting Blake Corum outside of a Kyren injury, but if Kyren goes, like, in the hypothetical world, Kyren got injured and Tajay Spears got injured, who's higher in my rankings that week? It's Blake Corum over Tony Pollard. And again, we're never starting either player if their backfield mate's healthy. So I would cut Pollard. I would pick up Blake Corum. I would also consider cutting Matthew Golden in favor of Luther Burden, with Luther Burden seeing an uptick in snaps this past week. You could look at maybe picking, if you didn't have the elite tight end already through his bye, I would look at picking up Loveland, just because I think Loveland does have a decent amount of upside and you could potentially see a breakout, but you don't necessarily need to go in that direction specifically, because if your trade deadline's on the 22nd and we'd be rostering London, hoping that we get a big spike and then all of a sudden we can sell him for more, it's like, oh, okay, well, obviously we're not going to be able to. The deadline's passed, and we're never going to start Colson Loveland over Tyler Warren. So I really like the construction of this team to the point where I don't think you need to make a deal. I think you just kind of sit on your hands. I would cut Pollard, and I would go ahead and probably pick up Blake Corum, and I'd probably cut Matthew Golden for Luther Burden. I feel more comfortable telling you to cut Pollard for Corum, though, than I would telling you to cut Golden for Luther Burden. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. And yeah, thank you so much for sticking with us all season. I know you've been out here a bunch. Now, let's move this over to Chalk Milk says, hey, Mason, I've clinched a playoff spot. I'm 9-2 right now. It's an 8-team league. Top 4 teams make the playoffs. No first round bye. Playoffs are weeks 14 through 17. As you can tell, my roster is already pretty stacked, but are there any trades or waiver wire moves I should try to make it even stronger for the playoffs? Okay. I have told the past 2 teams that we have reviewed, well, I like the team. I would just make a small little waiver wire pivot. So you better believe that that's the last thing that I would want to tell you. What I would love to come out here and tell you is like, oh yeah, there's very clearly this trade that you should look to make. I can already know, though, before we even pull up your team, there's not going to be anything to do. Because it's an 8-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So the depth isn't really going to matter. The only thing that matters is the studs inside the starting lineup at the very top. We have scored 1,700 points, and the next highest scoring team has scored 1,365. So points wise, you have by far and away the best team in this league. Then we go ahead and look at the power rankings according to the league analyzer. You have by far and away the best team using that as well. So looking at what we have at quarterback, we have the QB1 in fantasy. We have Josh Allen. Now, it's easy to say, tougher to do, because in an 8-team league, nobody's really going to need quarterback. But if you could sell May in a 2-for-1 deal to get an upgrade elsewhere, we would look to do so. The worst team in this league actually does have Jordan Love. I mean, hell, I would offer Drake May and... I mean, running back, you have Taylor, CMC, James Cook starting every week, right? Obviously, we don't need to get an upgrade at running back. But I'd offer Drake May, and Igbuka doesn't get you JSN. I mean, hell, can you send Drake May, Quinshon Judkins, and Igbuka for JSN? I would send the offer, see what they say. Is there another team? This team is Daniel Jones, Brock Purdy. I mean, can't hurt to offer them Drake May and Tyler Warren, or Drake May and George Kittle for Trey McBride. You can send that offer out. Again, much easier said than done in terms of getting it accepted. A running back, there's nothing that you could possibly even think about doing. We have Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook. What else could you want? We even have Judkins and RJ Harvey. So very clearly, Judkins and RJ Harvey are expendable pieces. If you could go through and sell them and get an upgrade inside the starting lineup, you would. But again, coulda, woulda, shoulda. We'll see. Easier said than done. Going over to wide receiver, you are currently sitting with Igbuka, Nico, London, and Wan'Dale Robinson. London's going to be back for the fantasy playoffs, so you'll be A-okay here. Going over to tight ends, you have Tyler Warren, George Kittle. A-okay. Waiver wire pivots, like, I'd be quick to drop Wan'Dale Robinson for, like, Trey Benson if he's officially back and he's a starter. But, I mean, that's really all I could possibly think about saying. Overall, you have an incredibly loaded team. There's not much to discuss. Again, if you could potentially send Drake May and get that upgrade elsewhere, or send RJ Harvey and get that upgrade at wide receiver, you would. But in an 8-team league, it is easier said than done. But I really appreciate you. And I wish my team was half as good as this. Literally, if you gave me this team and took away both Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey, I'd be like, okay, cool, thanks. It's an upgrade over my team. Now, Mr. Noah with our next question. I know we hit 100 likes on the stream. We'll send out a bunch of free questions when we hit 200 likes. Just want to keep going so we can get through a bunch of these fast. It says, first year managing, trying to find a route to win as the rook. All teams in this league make the playoffs. What the hell is that? Regardless of schedule, looking for guidance on what moves we can make over the next few weeks to win come playoff time. Okay, I'm going to say one thing and one thing very clearly. All teams making the playoffs in your league, garbage rule. Absolutely horrendous. Let's update this next year, because this just makes the regular season not matter, right? Like, I don't even want to look at our record, our points for, anything like that. It's meaningless. The only thing that matters is just having the most points scored in weeks 15 through 17. We're 5-6, but who cares? We just got to be thinking about what our team looks like in the final 3 weeks. It is a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. So 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Having an elite quarterback is going to matter. And, now that Burrow's officially back, I need to move Burrow up my ranks, because I think realistically, I'd rather have Burrow over Bo Nix and Jackson Dart now. And it's raining outside in Austin, Texas. Good sound to hear. I'm going to move Burrow up to my QB6 and my rest of season ranks. So we have May and Burrow. If you could sell Jackson Dart, sell Bo Nix, and get literally anything at all, you would, but easier said than done. Going over to running back, we are currently sitting with Barkley, Trevion, Amarian. So, like, a great example is if this was a normal league where you actually had to battle it out for your playoff spot, I would look at this team that's 5-6 and go, oh, yeah, man, you should be trading away Amari and Hampton to get some points inside your starting lineup now. But no, if we're just chilling for the fantasy playoffs, Amari and Hampton should be back by then. So I would want to go ahead and I would want to hold on to Amari and Hampton. Like, great running back room. Going over to receiver, we have Tedero McMillan, Drake London, Ricky Pearsall, Romeo Dobbs, Alec Pierce. So we have a ton of startable wide receivers. My main thing with this team is you have so much depth that if you got the opportunity to make 2-for-1 deals to improve inside the starting lineup by selling a wide receiver like, I don't know, Ricky Pearsall with a running back like Woody Marks or with a tight end like Jake Ferguson, I think that'd be very interesting. Maybe it'd be easier to sell the tight end. Like this team has TJ Hawkinson and Dalton Kincaid. Could we send them the combination of Ricky Pearsall and Jake Ferguson for Jalen Waddle? Could we send Jake Ferguson and Saquon Barkley for Jahmyr Gibbs? I would love either one of those moves. This team lost Sam Laporta. They're starting Zach Ertz right now. Could you send them the combination of Jake Ferguson and Tedero McMillan, or Tyler Boren and Tedero McMillan for Amon-Ra St. Brown? Jake Ferg and Woody Marks for Ashton Genty. And there are enough depth pieces on the waiver wire that if you were able to make one of those 2-for-1 deals, you can backfill very easily with players that you'd be excited about the value of. So that would be the main thing I'd be looking at, is just trying to take advantage of the depth that you have with this kind of team. And I don't think there's anything else that I would really need to worry about if I were you. It's just trying to convert some of this depth over to actual points in the lineup. I would say Bo Nix is probably never hitting your starting lineup at this point, and you're probably not going to be able to sell Bo Nix for anything. So I would cut Bo Nix for Alvin Kamara. If you wanted a running back with a little more upside, you'd cut him for Sean Tucker. But I think that's all I got for you. I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. I'm going to go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. Okay. Now, let's move this over to our next question. This one's from Seawood. Says, deadline coming up next week. What moves can I make? Thinking of upgrading running back 1 or wide receiver 2. What are the best moves right now? Okay. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. We are 6-5. We've scored the 6th most points in this league. So this is a league in which we still very much need to think about the short term here. Now, quarterback, we have Jared Goff, Jacoby Brissett. For me, I'd probably prefer Etienne over Brissett. I'm sorry, not Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. I apologize. I saw the Jacksonville Jaguars jersey and my brain melted. And a couple things I got to do with these quarterback rankings right now. We got to move Flacco down dramatically, move McCarthy below Lawrence, and move Brissett up dramatically. Okay, but I would still rather have Lawrence over Jacoby Brissett. Running back, we have Cook, Bucky Irving, Woody Marks, Trey Benson, and then Byshell Tootin possibly gets the bump up if this Travis Etienne injury is serious. So your strength on your team is running back depth. Like you have a ton of startable running backs. Wide receiver, Puka, Tedero McMillan, Ricky Pearsall, and then you have the elite tight end with Trey McBride. You know what I would try to do if I were you? I would try to send like Woody Marks and Jared Goff and get a quarterback upgrade. Trey Benson and Jared Goff and get a QB upgrade. Because you have the running back depth. Wide receiver, you're A-okay. You have the elite tight end. And here's the thing. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So quarterback's going to make up a very high percentage of your starting lineup output weekly. And like that's the weakest position on our team. And we have plenty of depth at running back, especially if Byshell Tootin all of a sudden becomes viable with an ETN injury. So let's see if there are any teams that really need help at running back. This team is Montgomery, Kamani Vidal, and Bam Knight. And they have Joe Burrow that just came back all of a sudden. I would offer them Woody Marks and Jared Goff for Joe Burrow. Or honestly, they don't even need Jared Goff. Keep Jared Goff in case Joe Burrow doesn't play. I'd offer him Woody Marks for Burrow. Trey Benson for Burrow. This team could use some help at running back. They have Josh Allen. Offer them Bucky Irving and Jared Goff for Josh Allen. See what they say. This team could use some help at running back, especially if ETN really is injured. I would go ahead and offer them the combination of like Woody Marks and Jared Goff for Mahomes. If they were Jet, consider going up to Bucky. And yeah, I understand you're talking about do not upgrade running back 1. Your running back 1's fine. I wouldn't worry about upgrading wide receiver 2 either. Like, I think the upgrade that I would make is trying to move some of your depth to go ahead and get the upgrade at QB. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Let me go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you wanted to follow up with. Now, let's move this over to our next question. It's going to be coming out from Baines Sadiq. Says, double flex 12-team league, traded Jinty, Swift, Sutton for Bijan and Ridley. Yeah, Ridley didn't last one game. You weren't going to start Ridley anyway. Hated Jinty and Swift's schedule rest of season. Struggling at wide receiver 2 as of now, as Pierce is probably my best option in that spot. Alec Pierce would have been better than Calvin Ridley anyway. Also had Neighbors and Kraft go down, which isn't great. So I'll say I like your deal, and I'm not too concerned whatsoever when it comes to like us losing Calvin Ridley. So if it is truly a double flex format, honestly, this is an incredible team. Running back, you have Bijan, Devon Achane, Rico Dowdle, Trevion Henderson that you can jam in every single week. You have the best running back room in this league, and it's not close. Wide receiver, you're going to start Igbukwe wide receiver 1. Alec Pierce wide receiver 2. That's fine. Going over to the waiver wire, I would say there are some clear waiver wire pivots that I would make. I would cut Adonai Mitchell for Tez Johnson or Chimere Dike or Cooper Kupp. Like, I know AD Mitchell's the wide receiver 1 for Justin Fields, but who cares? It's Justin Fields. AD Mitchell, through the 2 years in his NFL career, has averaged 3.1 and 3.0 fantasy points per game. So, again, I would cut AD Mitchell. I'd pick up another one of these options. And I would love to cut Jawan Johnson or Britton Strange and pick up Aronde Gadsden. Like, you literally just pick up Gadsden and our tight end room becomes viable and we start Igbukwe, Alec Pierce, and then we hammer our league mates at these with the running backs. You're A-okay here. Um, you for sure need to pick up Rondé Gadsden. That's the biggest thing for this team. Instead of picking up Tez Johnson at all, what you could do, if you're saying, hey, Mason, Britton Strange is on my IR, I can't cut him for Gadsden. I need a tight end to play this week, given the fact that Gadsden's on the bye. If you really wanted to, you could cut Adonai Mitchell, pick up Rondé Gadsden, and then cut Juwan Johnson the following week for a wide receiver. But if this is a double flex format, which you're saying it is, then I don't want to make a trade because I want to hammer our league mates. We're going to have a better running back one than the majority of our league. Anybody not named McCaffrey or JT will have a better RB1. We'll have a better running back two with Devon Achane than anybody we go up against. We'll have a better player in our first flex spot with Rico Dowdle than anybody we go up against. We'll have a better player in our second flex spot with Trevion Henderson than anybody we go up against. And wide receiver one with Igbuka strong. I think tight end is by far and away your biggest weakness. You picking up Gadsden's going to solve that right away. So if Britton Strange is on your bench, you cut him for Gadsden right now. If Britton Strange is on your IR, you would cut Adonai Mitchell for Gadsden. And I think I'm going to cut Adonai Mitchell regardless. And if you don't need that roster spot to pick up Gadsden, then you'd pick up Tez Johnson. But honestly, I know Alec Pierce, like, name value isn't there. And I actually thought Alec Pierce was a really bad prospect coming out of Cincinnati. It's not like I'm a big Alec Pierce guy. But I'm going to be honest, like, he's a fine wide receiver too at this point. I mean, he's been playing incredibly well. If you go ahead and pull this up over the past 4 weeks, he's had 14.8, 8.9, 17.5, 18.4 fantasy points. And he projects out better than Michael Pittman Jr. this week. So, yeah. I think wide receiver isn't strong, but you can survive because you have the strength at running back. Yeah, I like the team a lot. Assuming it's a double flex, if it was a single flex, I'd say probably you want to sell one of those running backs for an upgraded receiver, but double flex format, we want to leave this as is. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. Now, let's move this for Joy Boy J. Says, Mason, I've been with you for 3 years now. Much love, my guy. Appreciate you. So I need your help to save this team. I know I need to make a huge trade to have a chance for the playoffs. I'm 4-7. I need to win out. Who should I trade and who should I look for? So the big thing is, if you are 4-7, we need to look at any name that we are not getting production from this week and see if we can go ahead and get an upgrade inside our starting lineup with them. Like an example of this, Ladd McConkey on bye. And here's the thing. It's too late in the season for you to make some like massive trade that saves everything. Right? But you can still make some of these minor moves that puts you in a better position. And one of those minor moves would be just, hey, we don't have Ladd McConkey. Can we flip him, pick up a wide receiver that's in a similar range of the rankings, but it's actually going to play this week? So going through and looking at this, and also we don't want like a player like Tedero McMillan that has the week 14 bye, because then we would just be kicking the can down the road. We want him already through his bye. So like going through and looking at some of these wide receivers that maybe have already gone through their bye, we know that they're going to play. If you could sell Ladd for Devontae Adams, you'd do it in a heartbeat. If you could sell Ladd for Chris Olave, you would do it in a heartbeat. If you could sell Ladd and a smaller piece, maybe Ladd and Trey Benson and get to Igbuka, I would consider that. Let's go ahead and keep looking. If you could sell Ladd for Michael Pittman Jr., Ladd for Devonta Smith, Ladd and Trey Benson to get to Nico Collins, all those would be interesting for us. Ladd and Trey Benson to get to Rashee Rice. Ladd for T. Higgins. Looking at tight end, Gadsden's on bye as well this week, but We have Kyle Pitts that we can play right now, so it's not that big of a concern. You are going to be just A-okay. Running back, we have Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, Trey Benson. One thing you could look to do is if you were trying to up tier from Ladd McConkey and go ahead and get a wide receiver that's maybe higher in the rankings than Ladd, that's also through his bye, somebody like Igbuka that we mentioned previously. What you could look to do is you could look to potentially throw in Kenneth Walker. We're obviously Kenneth Walker coming off a big game this past week, but it's not like he is in a position yet where we can just call him a must start, set it and forget it type player. I would personally, instead of trying to sell Kenneth Walker, look to sell Trey Benson myself, just because, again, I think we are a little bit more incentivized here for short-term production rather than long-term upside. But in terms of waiver wire pivots, I don't necessarily see anything for you here because options on the waiver wire, what we'd be wanting to optimize for would be short-term names. But I do think that there's a move to make. And again, in my opinion, that's going to be if you could go ahead and if you could potentially just get that upgrade inside the starting lineup right now without sacrificing too much long-term upside, I would look to do so because I don't want to be in a position where you're having to start Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy this week. And then all of a sudden we lose. It doesn't matter what ends up happening. We lose because we had Ladd McConkey inside our starting. I mean, we did not have Ladd McConkey inside our starting lineup with him on bye. But I really appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. And I'll go ahead and send you over some free questions in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. But again, at this point of the year, I don't think that there's some like big, massive trade that I can suggest that solves all your problems for you. I think it's more so you can make like small pivots. That would be nice. Okay. Now, let me pivot this over to some of the quicker questions. These are the trade questions, these start sit questions. And let me pull up the exact Travis Etienne news that we have real quick, because I need to make sure that if we see any deals like involving Byshell Tootin, we have a sense of how we should be valuing him. And Chris Godwin got in a full practice on Thursday. Really hope we get Godwin back this week. Okay. David Njoku does not practice. Okay, let me search Travis Etienne on Twitter and see what we got. Yeah, so Tootin's a full go, no restrictions. Etienne is dealing with the non-contact injury. I can't see anything in terms of his availability for Sunday, but have to be on the radar for Byshell Tootin to potentially become a starting running back now. Honestly, Bitter Hornet, it doesn't matter. If you got this opportunity, you go and trade for Bijan. Okay. Now, Foster Boss here at running back. Sounds like Jacobs going to play. You play Jacobs. And then in the flex, no Debo, no Achane. I would just play it safe. I'd go Woody Marks. But yeah. Sean Tucker would be the play over Woody Marks if we had Bucky Irving for sure out. But since Woody Marks plays tonight, I would just play it safe. Okay. Now, Anya Knees. Here, I think Jacobs will play, so you're probably going to play Jacobs. And I'd play it on Judkins, but if you have Bucky Irving playing, you can pivot to Bucky. And then at tight end between Dalton Schultz and Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson's been very consistent with his target volume. He's averaged 5 targets a game this season. Dalton Schultz has been really good as of late, though, with Davis Mills. Has been a top tight end 3 straight weeks. Honestly, I could go back and forth. I really don't know. Probably Dalton Schultz. Okay. Now, Dave trading Olave, Devonta Smith, Drake London for Flowers and JSN. Yeah, this is JSN. It's not close. Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, same tier. Would I rather have an injured London with no quarterback and Olave or Jackson Smith and Jigba? Jackson Smith and Jigba easily. Sup Broda is trading Amari and Hampton, Trey Tucker, Theo Johnson for Justin Jefferson. Yeah, Chief, this is going to be Justin Jefferson for me. Be different if we knew that Amari and Hampton was 100% healthy and 100% good to go. Now, North End says, first, thanks for the great analysis this year. Second, I can get Godwin or Montgomery, but I don't want to lose Bichelle or Kyle Monangai. Many guys on buys. This is tough. Well, I really appreciate you, my friend. Let me go ahead and send you over a free trade question. So you're essentially saying you could sell Kyle Monangai and get back David Montgomery or Chris Godwin. I would prefer Montgomery between the two of them. Here's my thing with Kyle Monangai. He is, in my mind, very similar to David Montgomery when it comes to the roles in their respective offenses. Like, back-to-back games since DeAndre Swift's been back, Kyle Monangai has played anywhere from 30 to 40% of the snaps. He's had 8 and 13 opportunities. David Montgomery in back-to-back games has played 40 and 55% of the snaps. He's had 16 and 7 opportunities. So neither running back you'd be that excited to put in your starting lineup if their backfield mate was fully healthy. But here's the thing. If you were to get a DeAndre Swift injury, Kyle Monangai is probably a high-end RB2 in my rankings that week. If Jahmyr Gibbs were to go down, David Montgomery's a top 5 running back in my rankings that week. So I would go ahead. I'd plan on jamming in Montgomery. Okay. Now, Bitter Hornet says, do I have enough wide receiver depth? Any other ideas? Yes, you'd make this in a heartbeat. I would be willing to take out one of the backup running backs and put in a starter like Woody Marks instead. Because again, I think that you are getting so much value out of this. Okay. Now, GT007 running back. Barkley, Jacobs, easy starts. Wide receiver, Rice, Egbuka, easy starts. Tight end, Trey McBride, easy start. And then for the flex, it's Kenneth Walker, Woody Marks, or Michael Wilson. Let me see what the updated projections are between the running back. Let's look at the updated projections with all 3 of these players. Okay. Let's pull this up. Give me 1 second. Hopefully y'all can hear the nice dog in the background barking. She's been so bad lately, barking so much, keeping me up all night. Kenneth Walker right now is higher, lower 69.5 total yards. Obviously not going to be a massive receiver. Michael Wilson's higher, lower 57.5. And Woody Marks is higher, lower 79.5. So projections have it as Woody Marks. And honestly, I'd probably stand by that. Now, MX 70-50, quarterback between Dart and Hurts. I'd play Hurts. Wide receiver, Kayshon Boutte over Jamar. Jamar's not playing. Tight end. I know A.J. Barner had a great week this past week. Here is probably the correct answer. Correct answer, maybe A.J. Barner against the Titans, but I'm an idiot. So if it was my team, I'd play Loveland. And then for the flex, if Travis Etienne's fully good to go, I would play Kenneth Gainwell. If Etienne misses, you play Bichelle Tuden. Now, Ryan or Schlinn. Quarterback, Allen over May, even though Drake May has a much, 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 much better matchup. Running back, Dowdle, Chase Brown auto starts. And then here in the flexes, Puka Nacua, JSN. And then it's between Kenneth Walker or Ricky Pearsall, essentially. We'd go Kenneth Walker in that instance. Now, Mahoy trading away Genty and Rice for Brian Robinson and CMC. Leftover receiver, you'd have Jefferson, Rome, Devonta Smith, Keenan. It's a 2-receiver, 1 flex. It's going to be McCaffrey. I know it seems like you're paying a lot to get McCaffrey, but he's averaging like 25.5 points per game right now. Yeah, 25.8 points per game. Compare that to Rice. That's about 6.5 points per game more than Rashee Rice. That's almost 12 points per game more than Ashton Genty. McCaffrey's just in a completely different tier. Okay. Now, Christian. Wide receiver. We're going to go Stephon Diggs. And then in the... Actually, I'm sorry. You probably go Tedero McMillan. Tedero McMillan... Oh my gosh. And maybe Stephon Diggs over Judkins, but Judkins would be the other call. The only reason I'm having a hard time passing on Diggs here is just the matchup's incredible against Cincy. Okay. Bitter Hornet trading Gainwell and Pearsall for Devonta Smith. Yeah, I would go ahead and do this for sure. Buy Shell Tootin, Pearsall for Devonta Smith. I would hold off on this one and hope that we get some clarity with Travis Etienne. Like, what happens if Etienne's missing the next few weeks? Buy Shell Tootin wins this easily. Like, in my weekly flex rankings, I'd rather have Buy Shell Tootin with no Etienne over Devonta Smith straight up. Okay. Okay. And I'm reading some stuff on the side that makes it sound like we aren't going to get Bucky back soon. So honestly, I'm going to run over to the rankings real quick and I'm going to move Sean Tucker up my ranks. I would rather have Tucker over Manuel Wilson, Kenneth Gainwell, Kamani Vidal. I'd rather him over Kamara. Rather have him over Charbonnet. I'm going to move Sean Tucker out to RB29 rest of season. Now, Tim, here at running back, you plan on Judkins and Etienne, and if Etienne doesn't play, I guess you have to play Emmanuel Wilson. I think Jacobs is probably going to play. Wide receiver, we have Rice, Egbuka, Nico in the flex, and then tight end, you start McBride. And yeah, I'd start these wide receivers over Bowers. G-Money trading Chase Brown, Bucky, Devontae Adams for Jefferson and James Cook. Bucky to James Cook upgrade. Devontae Adams to Justin Jefferson lateral move. You're paying Chase Brown to get it done. You have the depth. I'd probably go get the best player here with James Cook. Especially with how it sounds scary for Bucky right now. Like, honestly, I'm going to move Bucky behind Henry and Genty in my rest of season ranks. I'm going to move Bucky down to RB14. Okay. Now, Duck Tig trading away Dowdle, Brock Bowers for Jahmyr Gibbs. You have Tyler Warren at tight end, so you're one of the very few teams that could do this. A lot of teams, I'd probably want the Dowdle and Bowers side, but if you have Tyler Warren, you're A-okay. Okay. Now, Sputnik trading away Emmanuel Wilson for Gadsden. I have Emmanuel Wilson on my team, and I'd rather have Gadsden at this point. Now that we have Josh Jacobs saying that at the worst case scenario, he only misses 1 week. Okay. Now, our next question. Ooh, we got to log out, log back in. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. And also, let me know how many likes we're at, because I know when I said when we hit 200 likes on the stream, we're going to send out a bunch of free questions. And I do not know if we're at 200 or not. But let me know that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it looks like we've hit 200. So let me send out some free questions. If y'all want to qualify for free questions, it's really simple. All you got to do is drop a like on the stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. That way, if you win, I know who to send it over to. And let me pull that up on the other monitor here just so we can send those out. All right, let's send this to Say It Again. Just found you, my friend. Just sent you over that free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream. Send this to Alsa MR. I cannot find you. I don't know if you use code FLOCK when you signed up to the site. If not, you can add it to your account page. That way, next time you win something, I can find you. Let me send this to Strange Linseed. Just found you. Just sent you over that free start set. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And yeah, like I said, Sputnik, I would rather have Gadsden over Emmanuel Wilson, especially with the positive Jacobs news that we have received. Now, Jonas trading away Jalen Ward and Rashee Rice for McCaffrey. It's McCaffrey, and it's not close. I don't even need to look at your team. BT99 says, short at wide receiver this week. Who should we start in the flex? Brian Thomas, easily. Like, projections on Brian Thomas are really favorable right now. I'll just show you the projections with all these players. Brian Thomas right now, higher lower 63 net receiving yards. Kayshon Boutte, higher lower 35.5. Not even 100% sure if Darius Slayton's going to play. Yeah, I don't know if Darius Slayton's going to play, but he's going to project out much worse than Brian Thomas. So, yeah, I'll go Brian Thomas. I don't think it's too close either. Lions in 4 here at running back. Trevion, Aaron Jones, the easy starts. And then in the flex, you're probably planning on Devonta Smith. Now, if Josh Jacobs is a surprise inactive, you would play Emmanuel Wilson at that point over Aaron Jones. Okay, Flock username, trading Pearsall, Tyler Warren for Michael Wilson, Tedero McMillan, and Kyle Pitts. Tyler Warren to Tedero McMillan, up to you. Ricky Pearsall to Michael Wilson, massive downgrade. Michael Wilson's like a 1 week fill-in. You have Gadsden, so you can make the trade if you want. And you have need at wide receiver. So I think that this is a fair trade. Don't get me wrong. And I understand why you would be wanting to do it when you're stronger at tight end than you are stronger at receiver. But just want to make sure we're on the same page and that you're not getting a ton of value from Michael Wilson in this deal. Okay. Now, Dreams, quarterback, planning on Dak over Burrow this week, even if Burrow plays. Running back, Judkins and Swift. If Bucky plays, I'd play him over Swift. Or if Jalen Warren misses, I'd play Gainwell over Swift. Or if Jacobs misses, I'd play Emmanuel Wilson over him. It's just too early to know it with those running backs. Tight end, probably Schultz over Loveland, even though I hate to admit it. And then in the flex, if Bucky plays, you put Bucky. If Jacobs misses, you put Emmanuel Wilson. If Kenneth Gainwell is the starter with no Jalen Warren, you'd play him. But if we have a bad run out for all the running backs, you would play Brian Thomas. Okay. And yeah, Keon Coleman is a healthy scratch again tonight. So, let me go ahead and just make sure we have Keon Coleman fully removed from the weekly ranks. Okay, Keon Coleman. Just removed. Now, just Farrell. Here, tight end between Loveland and Fannin. Probably go Fannin with David Njoku missing practice again today. If Njoku plays, you pivot to Loveland. And then in the flexes, plans to go with Jalen Warren and Xavier Worthy. But if Jacobs misses, you play Emmanuel Wilson over Xavier Worthy. If Jalen Warren misses and Josh Jacobs plays, you probably put Jawan Jennings over him. Now, Banders, between Chase Brown, Woody Marks, I'd go Chase Brown pretty easily. Swole trading Marks, Pickens, A.J. Brown, Romadunse for Puka Nacua. To 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. We're left over. We'd have Puka, St. Brown, Nico, and Teteroa McMillan. So you'd still be having to bench a strong wide receiver. So it's a great example of you wanting to go through and you wanting to just trade all your depth in a shallow format like this. For the absolute cornerstone stud. So let's do it. Okay. Now, Omar trading Walker and Alec Pierce for Teteroa McMillan. Leftover at running back, you'd have Bijan, Judkins, and that's it. You're probably winning this deal, but I could see it going sideways. It's not a no-brainer, but I do think Teteroa McMillan's probably the winner. Okay. Now, Matt Warnick, quarterback between Dart, Daniel Jones. Probably plan on going Dart with Daniel Jones having a tough matchup against KC. Tight ends, I'm going to go Hawk. I just can't play anybody with the Jets not named Breece Hall. And then in the flexes, we're going to play Brian Thomas. And I can't tell you to get 2 Vikings in against the Packers with McCarthy. If Travis Etienne were to miss, it's an easy answer to go with Byshell Tootin. However, if Etienne plays, he probably go with Jordan Addison over Trey Tucker, but it's close. I really obviously don't want to play 2 Vikings. Chicken Tindy says, tough week, no HN Chase London. Worthy and Gadsden available. Gadsden's not going to play this week, my guy. Start one of them over Addison or Pearsall. Flex, London, Chase. I'd go Pearsall over Addison. And then in the flex, no, you go Addison. You play both these names. If Worthy and Gadsden are both available, you can consider going Worthy. Oh, I'm sorry. Gadsden's not going to play this week. Again, he's on bye. But you could consider going Worthy over Addison. The site rankings have Addison over Worthy, but I have Worthy over Addison just because I think Addison's set up in a horrible spot given the offense. Okay. Now, Neil C. Here for the flex, I'd go Roma Dunse. I mean, you can play Woody Marks if you want instead, but it's either Roma or Woody Marks. Bitter Hornet, Bijan versus Lamar Kyron and Teteroa McMillan. I know this is the team where we had the Daniels injury. Tet would play here for sure. I think this is a fair deal for Bijan. Y'all know I typically hate trading away those top end studs, but I mean, I think that's a very fair cost. Bijan versus Jamar. Running back, you'd have Dowdle, Chase Brown, wide receiver. I think that this one's going to be fair, and it's going to be up to you. If you're a playoff team, I would go ahead and not take the Jamar side, which I think last we saw, you're like 8-3 with that team or something along those lines. Or maybe that was the team where you were 6-5 but scored like the second most points in the league. But if you were guaranteed to go to the playoffs, then I'd probably prefer Chase. Bitter Hornet trading Bijan for Burrow, Henry, and Higgins. I think I would prefer the Bijan side on this one. I definitely prefer Lamar over Burrow still. And then Bijan versus Bucky and George Pickens, I would go Bijan. Again, with the concern that we have for Bucky Irving. Now, so should I trade Bijan for Amon-Ra and Trevion? Well, right now we have Caleb in at quarterback. Running back, we have Dowdle, Bijan. Wide receiver, you have Rice, J-Mo. Tight end, you have Tyler Warren. And then the flex, you have Chase Brown. Here's the thing. I don't think you need to worry about depth. I like the fact that we now have Bijan on the team. So Amon-Ra and Trevion, you probably make that move just because it's such good value. But I don't think you need to be worried about down tiering from Bijan Robinson. You have plenty of depth with the squad. Okay, now superb approach. Trading Breece, Quentin Johnston for Woody Marks and Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnston, a Ladd upgrade. Breece, the Marks downgrade. For me, I think the gap between Breece and Marks is larger than Quentin Johnston and Ladd. If y'all want to see something funny, right now Quentin Johnston's at 12.19 fantasy points per game. Ladd McConkey's at 12.95. So the difference in points per game between the big Q and Ladd is 0.8. So I would probably prefer Breece, but I could be very biased because Quentin Johnston, my most drafted player on Underdog, and I have Breece in the Flock League. Hopefully not for long. Hopefully we're able to trade him. Let me check Sleeper real quick, see if anything went down. Okay. Nothing's gone down so far. Ugh. I really, really, really hope I get this Jamar Chase deal done. Really, really, really want Jamar on my team again. Especially now that Burrow's back. Like, I'm not going to... Jamar's still wide receiver 3 in my rest of season rankings right now because you get the extra game from Puka and JSN. But starting in week 13, Jamar will be my wide receiver 1. He'll probably be my 3rd ranked player in fantasy. Okay. Now, Petro Mega, running back. I don't think Buggy's going to play. I think Jacob's going to play, so I just plan on going Woody Marks. And then in the flex, probably Michael Wilson. I'd play Emmanuel Wilson over him if Josh Jacobs were to miss, but I think based off reports today, Jacobs probably going to play. Now, Cenarius, running back. If Benson plays, you go, here's how I'd rank these guys. Because it's just so tough submitting starting lineups at running back right now. Because, again, we don't have the clarity on all these injuries. But number 1 option would be Byshell Tune if ETN misses. Number 2 option would be Benson if Benson plays. Now, if ETN plays and Benson doesn't, then number 3 option is Zach Charbonnet. But again, tough to know right now. And you're probably going to play Ricky Pearsall down in the flex. I'd play Benson over Pearsall, though. If ETN misses and Benson plays, you play both Byshell Tootin and Tootin and Trey Benson. Okay. Now, Bitter Hornet says, trade Bijan and J-Mo for Puka. I know we discussed holding on to Bijan, but wanted to see what I might get for him. What do you think? Here's my thing. If you were to make that kind of move, then all of a sudden, what's your flex looking like? Playing Dowdle, Chase Brown at running back after you were to do this. Wide receiver, you'd be starting Rice and Puka Nacua. Tight end, you'd have Tyler Warren, and you'd have traded away Bijan and Jamo. So you'd be playing like Wandale in your flex. Is the gap in points per game larger from Wandale to Jamo or Bijan to Puka? I think that's what you have to ask yourself. I like this idea more than I like the alternative of you down tiering from Bijan to picking up an additional starter. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Out of all the trades that you've sent, this is the one I like the most. If you are trading away Bijan, I like sending the wide receiver 2 and getting an upgrade rather than down tiering Bijan. Actually, I do like the Lamar Kyron deal that you had sent previously. Okay. Now, Spaghetti Girl. Wide receiver, you play Jefferson. Actually, I'd go Ibuka over Jefferson. I'd go Higgins here as well over Jefferson with no Chase, especially if Burrow plays. And then in the flex between Jefferson and Brees, I'd play Jefferson. Both are in garbage offenses. It's all like I can say. Like, oh, Justin Jefferson's dealing with garbage quarterback playing a garbage offense. Play Brees Hall instead. Brees is in the same spot. Okay. Now, Manic, running back. It's tough to know right now, right? We don't know if Etienne's going to play. We don't know if Jacobs going to play. We don't know if Benson's going to play. Etienne plays, Jacobs plays, and Benson misses. I want to play Etienne. If Jacobs misses, I'll play Emmanuel Wilson over Etienne. If Jacobs plays, Etienne misses, and Trey Benson plays, you play Benson. If Etienne misses, Benson misses, Jacobs plays, you play Alvin Kamara. So it's tough. Hopefully that helps. And then you're going to throw Chris Olave in a flex regardless. Now, Anto, here for the flex, I would play Quinshon Judkins probably. Let me just think about this. Yeah, the offense projects very poorly, but it's kind of the same thing with Houston, right? Can't say like, oh, the Browns aren't going to score a lot of points this week, so play Woody Marks. Like the Texans aren't projected to score much. Now, Turhan James, quarterback between Dak and Purdy. I'd prefer Dak plays Philly. I'd still probably rather have Dak. Running back, James Cook, auto start. Chase Brown, auto start. And then in the flex, Egbuka, and you bench Woody Marks. The Soaring Eagle, trading Josh Allen for Nico, downgrade. Troy Franklin for Joe Burrow, upgrade. Superflex League. This is a deal that's entirely fair, and it's going to depend on if Burrow legitimately is playing this week or next week. If Burrow's back this week, I probably opt to go with the Burrow and Nico Collins side. If Burrow's going to take a couple weeks back, I'd probably say there's more value in the Josh Allen side in Superflex League. Okay. Now, Tommy got your mommy. Here at running back, you play Chase Brown. Wide receiver, Roma Dunes. Actually, I'd go Tedero McMillan over Roma at this point. And then for the flex, I'd probably play Brees Hall. Fakin Lakin, here at wide receiver, Michael Wilson with no Marv or Rome Odunze. Here's the thing. I think Jacob's going to play, so I think you got to take Emmanuel Wilson out. I probably plan on going Rome and Woody Marks. I don't think you can bench Woody Marks right now in plans of going with Emmanuel Wilson. From Jacobs is at practice, and he is saying at the very minimum he's back on Thanksgiving. And crap, I did not realize how close Thanksgiving is. I need to book somewhere to stay. I'm going to Thanksgiving with my fiance's family, and there's so many people in the house that I'm getting a Airbnb so I can live stream from the Airbnb while I'm there. I did not think this through. Thanksgiving's 1 week from now, right? Ooh. I got to get an Airbnb. Now, Negatron says, hey, Mason, I don't know why, but I'm a bit hesitant, but I'm thinking about pulling the trigger for DeAndre Swift. Tell me I'm making the right decision for rest of season. Non-PPR, thank you. Thank you, my guy. I would say non-PPR format, yes, sir. I would 100% do this. I think we looked at this previously, but again, if we just go through and take a little peek-sees, non-PPR format, Michael Pittman Jr. is averaging 9.6 fantasy points per game. Non-PPR format, DeAndre Swift is averaging 12.6 or 12.4. So DeAndre Swift's giving you 30% more production than Michael Pittman Jr. And it's not like Kyle Monangai has come through to completely crush here. Or take over the role from DeAndre Swift. So, non-PPR format, give me Swift over Pittman. Full PPR league, give me Pittman over Swift. NJB says 6-5 in the 20-team 3-player keeper league, borderline for the playoffs. Hope you were doing well, my guy. So, 20-team league, obviously, all of these players are options you need to have in your lineup. The question is, what's the difference in points per game between Igbuka and Metcalf versus the difference in points per game between Benson and Chase Brown? You know what a lot of this hinges on in my mind is the Samaje Perine injury. Because with no Perine, Chase Brown is just seeing absolutely everything in Cincinnati and is an insane upgrade over Trey Benson. But if Perine's back and Perine starts taking some of the receiving work again, difference in points per game between Igbuka and Metcalf so far this year. Igbuka's at 15.5. Metcalf is at 12.5. Do we think Chase Brown outscores Trey Benson by 3 points per game? There's a real shot. And the thing is as well, if you're 6-5, it's a 20-team league, and we're borderline on the playoffs. Getting Chase Brown here that we know is going to be a start for us this week, where we can't say that we know that for sure with Trey Benson, I probably would go ahead and make this move. Flock username trading Ricky Pearsall for Aaron Jones. I have Aaron Jones ranked higher, and this team needs a running back too, especially this week. Actually, you need some help at wide receiver as well. I think that this is you need to play one of these guys at the flex kind of regardless. So I think this comes down to what your expectations are for the viability of these players in the flex. So I think you can go 100% go ahead and make this if you want. Okay. Now, T.S. Bates I would play Pickens and Igbuka over Ramadunse pretty easily at this point. Kane Roth trading Burrow for Diggs. I have them ranked back to back. You have Josh Allen on your team, and you would start Stephon Diggs. So yeah, I'd make this move. Beto, always happy to see you. Let me make sure you got a bunch of free questions, my guy. Hey, Mason, Worthy and Brian Thomas Jr. are injured. Should I ride with Higgins? I'm scared to use Algier. No, I'm not playing Jaden Higgins. I think Brian Thomas is going to play. I would plan on going with Worthy and Brian Thomas. And the gap in points per game between, say, like hypothetically, Worthy doesn't play and you have to pivot to Tyler Algier. Or, I mean, here's the main thing, actually, that we got to be thinking about. In my flex rankings this week, would I prefer Jaden Higgins or Devin Singletary? Who would y'all rather start, ladies and gentlemen? Jaden Higgins tonight, coming off a game in which... Why is his snap rate not here? What the hell? I need to send this to the devs. But coming off a game where he is running more routes and he's getting more involved in the offense that he had in a long time, or pretty much through his entire NFL career. But he's had 7 targets in back-to-back games. Jaden Higgins this season's averaging... Yeah, this is real weird why this is happening. He scored double-digit points twice, so would you rather play Tyler Algier? Tyler Algier averaging about 8 points per game. I scored double digits 3 times. Or yeah, everybody in the chat saying Singletary. Like, kind of regardless, I don't think you need to worry about Jaden Higgins here. Like, I don't think Jaden Higgins is a start regardless. I'd plan on going Worthy, and I think you could pivot over to Devin Singletary or Tyler Algier. Okay. Now, G. D'Amico, here for the flex. If Bucky plays, you play Bucky. If he misses and Travis Etienne misses, you play Byshell Tuden. If Bucky misses and Etienne plays, you go Romeo Dobbs. Obviously, a lot of different outcomes there. Damian trading Jordan Addison for Jerry Jeudy. Here's the thing, man. I have Jerry Jeudy on my team. I decided to cut him because at the end of the day, if you go ahead and look at this, he's the wide receiver 74 in points per game, despite averaging 7.5 targets per contest. So there's no world. I understand McCarthy's horrible. I get it. But how can we say like, oh, McCarthy's making the Minnesota Vikings offense bad? Let's go and trade for Jerry Jeudy. No, I'd rather have Addison. Now, Fry Brian, as Mason, I'm in first place at 8-3. Just traded JT because of his schedule and the London injury. Did I F up? Yeah, you did. You 100% effed up. I'm sorry to say it. Jonathan Taylor's my RB1. Bijan's my RB3. Doesn't seem like there's that big of a difference. But Bijan's currently averaging 21 points per game. Jonathan Taylor's currently averaging 27.5. That's the difference of a 6.5 points per game. Ladd McConkey is like a wide receiver 26 in points per game right now. I know Jonathan Taylor is a tough schedule, but here's the thing. Like, London's probably going to miss 1 week, or at least that's what he's telling us right now. I understand Taylor has a tough schedule going forward. Plays the Chiefs, the Texans. Then he has to play the Seahawks. It's not great, but he's just on a completely different level of any player at this point. Now, say it again. Running back, I think Jacobs is probably going to play. If he doesn't, I'd go Emmanuel Wilson. I'm not playing DeAndre Swift there regardless. And then you play Igbuka in the flex regardless. Real Alex trading Igbuka for Genty, lateral move. Pearsall for Dobbs, lateral move. Sean Tucker for Brian Robinson, downgrade. Unless you're desperate for running back production, which you're not, I would probably prefer the Igbuka and Sean Tucker side of this, especially with the negative reports coming out regarding Bucky Irving. Now, K-Man Lawyer trading away Judkins, Brian Thomas for Jalen Waddle. I understand running back, you have enough production, but I think you got to shoot higher than Waddle. Like, I have Waddle on my own team. I'd trade him for Judkins and Brian Thomas. Okay, now K-Man Lawyer doing this deal for Devonta Smith. I'd rather have Judkins and Brian Thomas here as well. German Starfish says, would you even add Zay? Oh, yes. 12-team start 8 formats, so the depth's going to matter a bit. You have Gibbs, Benson that we can start at running back right now. Wide receiver left over, you'd have Debo, Puka Nacua. Actually, you can't add Zay Flowers because the depth's going to matter in your league and you don't have a ton of depth. But the deal trading Kyron and Romadunze for Puka Nacua is such a no-brainer that you'd have to do it regardless. But adding a third starter there is probably going to be a little tough. But let me go ahead and send you over some free questions just in case you have anything else you want us to take a look at. David Hill here, quarterback, playing on Lamar over Burrow for sure. Kyron over Kareem Hunt for sure. Wide receiver, Michael Wilson for sure. Tight ends, Hunter Henry for sure. And then for the flex, it's Kareem Hunt, Jordan Addison, Darnell Mooney, Chris Godwin. If Pacheco doesn't play, I would go Kareem Hunt. If Pacheco plays, I'm probably going to go ahead and take Darnell Mooney. So it's either Hunt or Mooney dependent on Pacheco's viability. Now, Bengals fan since 05 here, quarterback between Daniel Jones and Jared Goff. You go Jared Goff. I think he's like my QB6 this week. Running back, plan A is Bucky Irving. Plan B is Bam Knight. Assuming Benson misses, plan C would be Rashad White. And then for the flex, you play Michael Pittman Jr. Not tough at all. But looks like I think we hit 300 likes or people are lying. But regardless, we'll send out another free question. If y'all want to qualify for that free question, all you got to do is drop a like on the stream and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat, and we'll get that sent out. And okay, so good. We have 6 team reviews that we're going to be able to look at tomorrow. That's perfect. Let me just make sure nobody says that they have a trade deadline. See Mac and Cheese, I'd play Sean Tucker over Khalil Shakir if you see this. I'm just making sure nobody says they have a trade deadline today so we can get to these tomorrow. Okay, yeah, nobody says that. But let me go ahead and send this to H. Berea. See if I can find you on the site, my friend. H. Berea, just got you. Just sent you over a free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Let me see if I can find anybody else here. We got JC Giac. Just found you. Just sent you over a free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us as well. But I think that's all I got for y'all. Really appreciate y'all. I am hoping that I get a deal done in my league before kickoff. but not hearing anything. But I really appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Really hope I was able to help you out in some way. And if I don't get a deal done for Jamar Chase in my league, it means we are actually going to be trying to beat Sal this week. So what we need is a big Josh Allen game. Tough matchup, but he's Josh Allen, so he can do it. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. And we need a big Nico Collins game as well. Thank you. Appreciate you. And I'll see you after the game. We'll be